Hi, everybody, and welcome to our webinar today, where we are lucky enough to be joined by one of our industry practitioner experts, Jeff Wild from Spirit of Tasmania, and Richard Lundgren from Calabrio, longtime friend. Uh, Today, we're going to talk about all things knowledge management and quality. Our session today is starting a course mastery, and we're going to hear about the transformation journey and the impact that the quality program has made, both from an internal perspective and from a customer results perspective for the team at Spirit of Tasmania. So great opportunity to learn. In the spirit of reconciliation, Auscontact acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Today's webinar will run for approximately 60 minutes. And during that time, with the help of today's guests, we hope that the session provides some interesting insights into things that, potentially you can transform your contact center operations with, and things that are in your control to actually create more effective customer interactions. I'm Fran Southwood, CEO of Auscontact and your moderator for today. We'll just run through some general housekeeping with you. Remember to interact with us today to maximise the benefits. The session is being recorded, so those that have registered will send that out afterwards. But if you've got any questions as we're working through for Jess or for Richard, just put them in the chat or the QA feature, and I'll step in and ask those of the panel. If it makes sense to ask them at the time, I'll ask them then. But if it's something that I know we'll be covering later on, we might hold off. But rest assured, we'll get to them. As I said, QA or chat can work, and we'll answer those as we go through. If you are listening through headphones or speakers and experience any issues with your connection, just use the raise hand button on the control panel and one of the team will jump in and try and help. Alternatively, can revert to the dial-in numbers that were part of your registration email. So I am now going to introduce our speakers today. So as I alluded to before, we have Jess Wild, who is the Customer Contact Centre Support Coordinator for Spirit of Tasmania. And we've got Richard Lundgren, who is the Customer Success Manager at Calabrio. Jess, Richard, thank you and welcome. Did you want to do a quick introduction, Jess, before we get started?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, Fran. Yes, quality is a huge part of our world at Spirit of Tasmania in our contact centre. So it's lovely to be here.
Love that. And Richard, obviously you've been working with Jess over the last period, and we're excited to hear some of the breakthroughs and the opportunities that have come about from that partnership.
Yeah, well, this came up. I do some round the table sessions from time to time. I've been very slack this year. I haven't done many this year, but I have done them in the past, and they're typically customer suggested topics. And Jess said, "Oh, can we do it on quality?" So yeah, we can do it on quality. We scheduled the one the following month on quality, and she rocked up with an entire PowerPoint presentation and just ran the whole session. So I was like, "Yeah, this is brilliant. This is brilliant." They're only a small contact center, but they're pushing well above their weight around the QM and the quality framework and stuff that they're doing. In many cases, I'd say probably far and above some of the larger centers I've seen in my time. So hence why I kind of said to Jess, hey, let's do an Auscontact webinar on QM, kind of moving away from our typical WFM space for a change, which is what we normally do. And yes, they've got WFM as well, but limited staff and limited span of hours, so it's not as critical. But I was really impressed with what they were doing with QM. So hence here we are.
Love that. And I think it's interesting, isn't it? I think something like quality management, regardless of the size of your environment, if you get it right, the difference it can make, it's scalable for a start, but actually the difference it makes for your customer, as well as internal when you get it right, and get balance, it has huge impacts on, not only your efficiency, but also your effectiveness, and gives you real insights that actually let you sort of, do the next thing that you can actually attack as far as, that progress and gains for an organization. Jess, tell us a little bit about Spirit of Tasmania. Who are your customers? What does your organization look like? And what are some of the challenges that you face?
Yeah, sure, Fran. So Spirit of Tasmania is a primary passenger and vehicle ferry service that runs across the Bass Strait, connecting Geelong, Victoria, and Devonport, Tasmania. Yeah, we pride ourselves in delivering that amazing customer experience with everyone. Yeah, so with our customer base being a public transport operator, yeah, we have a very diverse range of customer needs. So we have a heap of tourists that are seeking to explore Tasmania with their vehicle. They can, get more out of the island and visit those beautiful parts with their car. We've got repeat, regular, loyalty customers. We've got grey nomads that are traveling seasonally, families. We've got people traveling to visit their relatives, traveling for work, and all sorts of things. So a real diverse range. Um, the challenges that we do have, just in regards to the customer contact center, is just managing that incredible demand with customer inquiries during our peak seasons, I would suggest. Yeah,
Yeah, and
we're
I can imagine your seasonality would be very picky as far
yes,
as, school holidays, summer, pretty much any time.
that's it.
I must admit, I look at the background pictures that you guys have up, and I'm like, oh, it just makes me want to go and get on that boat. So I totally get it. If you think about, some of those challenges, and again, seasonality is a really tough one for capacity and your resourcing and all of those things, particularly when you're a
Mm,
smaller organization. Can you tell us a little bit about the targets that you guys set for yourselves?
yeah.
And what are the things that you measure as far as that, customer success?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so when it comes to targets within the contact center, big KPIs for us is obviously average handling time, conversions. We also have other KPIs associated to identifying call drivers and outcomes of calls, which are really important to us. But the main thing overarching is quality. Quality is an outcome of that service experience that we are delivering, that we certainly do pride ourselves on. So when we're measuring quality in terms of those targets, we're measuring customer interactions via our inbound service queues, which are voice queues. We're measuring our email interactions. We're measuring administrative tasks, action via upskilled teams within our centre, which manage large group bookings, and our internal sales support help desk team. Yeah, so we've got a lot of areas in which we're focusing on. And also, we do have a customer satisfaction survey that goes out post travel to our customers. And yeah, that customer satisfaction survey measures everything from the customer experience, from the time they were looking on the website, from the time they were interacting with the contact center, when they're boarding with our terminal team, the onboard experience, and disembarking. Yeah, but we're really pleased. Our results are in the high 90% with that, and the contact center is certainly leading the way. So yes, we're really proud on the satisfaction outcomes and the service that we deliver for our customers.
I love that. If you think about, obviously you've been on this. I hate the word journey, but I'm going to use it, even though we're talking about
Sure.
boats. That's a bit crazy, isn't it? You've been on this transformational journey though with your quality program So,
Yes.
you know, talking to you and hearing about the things that you've done over the last, you know, kind of 12, 18 months, you've really kind of rethought what it is that matters to you, but equally how you're going to use it to drive business performance improvements. If you think about kind of what you had before, what was it that made you think you needed to kind of introduce something new, something
Yeah.
different, how you had to review it and come up with a different structure for yourselves?
Sure. Well, there's two parts of that. So we had a recent telephony upgrade, and we certainly found opportunity with leveraging the new features within our Calabrio application that we had. So certainly we're excited to get that advancement in the technology. And the second part of it was our existing quality assessment form that we had was seriously way too long. A massive amount of questions. It was very labor intensive to action those quality assessments. So certainly that raised the opportunity of the contact center leadership team to embark on a quality assurance project. So when we came into that project, we had certain areas that we wanted to focus in on. We want the quality outcomes to be limiting our errors. We want to ensure there's adherence to business rules. We want compliance to mandatory scripting, first call resolution, and obviously providing ongoing enhancements to the customer experience and ongoing individual agent development. So over several workshops, the contact center leadership team came up with an amazing quality form that we have now, which is limited down to 5 sections and a maximum of 2 to 3 questions within those sections, which we're very proud of. And we can do some very targeted reporting and analysis now on different driver types and certainly identify areas of opportunity to grow our team.
Definitely makes a difference. And I must admit, I have seen organizations with very, very, very long forms with lots and lots of questions. Richard, are you seeing organizations really trying to, you know, sharpen process that they're utilizing across the board for quality, or is it something that you sort of, I don't know, push and work with them on? Because, you know, the last thing you want is this resource intensive process that still isn't giving any better results, right? It's not giving
Yeah.
you that sharp outcome.
Yeah, look, and a lot of organisations are still kind of set in their old ways.
Yeah.
I find a lot, even though they've got a system to it, they find it hard to break away from their old ways of working in Excel or whatever it was. And I've got a number of customers I work with now that are building their framework. They've had Calabrio for some time. They're building their framework because they want to kind of kick it off with the form they put in the system. They want that to be the right form from day one. So it's not a whole bunch of irrelevant stuff they're collecting as well. You know, and again, you kind of go back some years. I mean, the old school thought, let's have 100 questions on the quality form. It's not needed, right? We know that. As Jez said, it's very targeted. A couple of questions, 2 or 3 questions per section, and whatever they're doing in there at Spirit, it's working. I've had to call the contact center on a couple of occasions back 5 years ago when I first moved down here, and also I did a trip up to the mainland recently to pick up the car and came back on the Spirit, and I had to call them for some information, and it was, you know, the wait time was not long, was answered immediately, and the service was great. Then yeah, there was a follow up after I sailed as well, and yeah, couldn't fault it. So whatever kind of pixie dust they're kind of sprinkling in there, it's working.
That, Jeff, you've got the pixie dust under control.
We sure do.
If you think about the types of things you've built into your new quality program, obviously, you know, sort of that traditional approach to quality is very much about the what, that very tactical operational activity. that we can very easily say happened or it didn't happen, right? But what I understand you guys with your leadership team have done, Jess, is really think about, what are the behaviors you wanted to also start really kind of recognizing whether they were there or they weren't there. As far as the impact of those on your customers. So how did you balance? Again, we've just heard that you've really kicked down the number of questions. You've got 5 kind of key areas that you're looking at. How did you balance behavior and actions? Because they're quite different when it comes to assessing. How did you get that balance right?
Oh, look, we're very lucky. We have quite an experienced leadership team that have, the average tenure is excess of decades. So we are very good at what we do. We've got tried and true procedures that we follow, and a very solid call flow that our team are using. So using that call flow as a bit of a foundation, we also did some really serious brainstorming around what are our customer critical components to consider with this form, and what is our business critical components to consider with this form, and then we prioritize those and put those together to identify, and certainly then weighted the sections of the form in accordance with what we found as a priority. So yes, uncovering our customers' travel needs, really understanding what's important to them. Uncovering needs is a quite a heavy weighted process for us. The other component that's quite a heavy weighted section is offering solutions and gaining agreement. So yes, sales come from amazing service experiences, and in order to offer an amazing solution, we really have to uncover our customers' needs. So we have some key components there that are non-negotiables, that we prioritize within our questions. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Do you also almost re-engineer when things don't go right and sort of bring that back into almost a review process as part of, would this have been picked up? Is it something we should have known? Can we now
Yeah.
review and
Sure.
change what we're looking for? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So it's a very strategic framework we have.
Yeah.
And we were very clever with how we put these forms together. So we have a quality assurance form for our new business and a quality assurance form for existing customers. Same questions, but this allows us to do analysis on the call types and identify what sections are scoring lower for at a center level, and then we can invest in training and focus sessions and center goals around those sections. So it's not that blurred outcomes if everything was just measured on the one form. So we can see, oh, look, this opportunity really comes back down to an amendment process in providing a solution, or there's an opportunity that comes down to really around uncovering customer needs and spending more time in that area for a new booking inquiry. So then we can certainly do those analysis and target those areas specifically and grow the team. And then we can also use those reports on an individual level to create some SMART goals and pathway plans for our people as well.
I love that. I actually love that you have 2 different iterations for your different customer type. I think that's really clever. And I don't hear a lot of organizations doing that. I hear a lot of organizations using the one process across all of it. And, it might be working for some, but I think it's a really nice approach to actually think differently about the characteristics of the customer. Richard, do you see that happening a lot?
No, I don't. I don't at all. It is a very unique approach. And it's not like, people coming from the mainland down to here, it's a captive audience, right? It's the only way to get here if you want to bring your car. Okay, they can choose to fly and hire a car down here, but they come by ship. So realistically, from looking at, again, going back a number of years before all this kind of stuff became really important, a company like Spirit would have been, well, we're the only way that can get here, so it doesn't really matter how we service our customers. But they've taken a totally different approach to that. They obviously want repeat customers, they want loyal customers, they want customers to talk about the brand as well. And and to have those two forms where you can then pick up, okay, what's the difference between an existing customer versus a new customer coming down, what we need to look at. It is a really clever way of doing it, and it's not something you see very often across centres typically. So that's a very smart way of doing things, I think.
Yeah, I love it. And Jess, probably the other really key thing I love is that you are not looking at this in isolation. So you're actually using your results to think, where else can we actually use these to build great service, right? So you're training, reviewing processes and procedures, all those sorts of things. It's such rich intel. But I do still see a lot of organizations use it in a very confined manner and for their assurance checks, as opposed to really looking at how can we build and enrich those other things that matter, that actually are part of that cycle of great customer outcome. So great job there. I think it's awesome.
Thanks.
We've got a couple of questions here that I'm just going to jump in with.
Sure.
There's a question here from Kelly in relation to obviously the changes of the program. So going from a massive list of questions down to a smaller amount. Process itself, so I'm imagining for your employees, it would have been quite a change. And equally, the results, when you introduce something new, sometimes the results are very different to what they were under an old program. So you've also got to almost manage the expectations of your leadership team and everyone that's suddenly going to see some different results. And it's about that settling period, right? But the question Kelly's got here is around, what kind of approach did you take with your comms and your change strategy,
Yeah.
rolling this out? Were people part of it?
Yeah, definitely. Well, sure, great question, and happy to answer that one. So, within our QA project, there was many workshops that we did, and we did a lot of assessments. So the normal standard quality assurance program was tinkering away, and the guys kept getting the results while we worked on the new form. But then we started to do calibrations with our new form on QA calls that had been done to do a comparison, and we could see when we that we were fine tuning things that the results weren't actually, there wasn't much variance, so we got it really right. So a lot of work put into it, a lot of calibration meetings and testing of that new form. Once we were satisfied with the new form and what those outcomes look like, and the variance being quite minimal in comparison to the existing form, we then embarked on some focus sessions with our team. So then we started, we train our contact center staff in QA. So our team are very well aware of what those goalposts look like, and they are certainly welcome to do self-assessments on their own calls using yet another quality form, a coaching form. So we embarked on doing some focus sessions with the team to upskill them in the new procedure with quality assurance. We then had a KPI-free 2-week period with quality, which allowed them to transition over to the new guidelines. Within that 2-week transition period, in addition to the focus session, they were also provided a coaching action, which they were to do some self-assessments using a coaching quality form with the new criteria, debriefs with the team leaders. Once everyone was happy, then we had that cut over in a fortnight's time.
Jeff, I love that you train your staff in quality.
Yeah.
Again, not something we hear about a whole lot in organizations. So for anyone listening, I'm not sure if you do that, let me know in the chat feature, but the importance and probably what I see when quality isn't going well in an organization is this culture that people being assessed feel like people are looking for the problems as opposed to celebrating the outcomes. They feel like they have been, what's the terminology? Things like pinged. I got pinged in QA. But again, that's the culture that's bred because it's almost this us and them view that they've kind of adopted as far as how they perceive QA. We know that's not what it's about. But I love that, taking that extra step and actually giving your frontline staff training in QA means, number one, they actually know those goalposts, as you say, super, super visible accountability. So that's amazing. But secondly, there's no surprises, right? And I love that you've introduced the self-assessment component as well, which means they can actively participate and drive their own development, right? So they can be part of their own performance improvement and coaching, which is really empowering. I love that.
That's it. And there's some great Calabria reports that you can leverage on that as well. So our team leaders can actually run a report in Calabrio and see, has my team member been actively opening their quality assurance calls? Have they listened to the call and reviewed those comments? So yeah, that's super, super beneficial.
Yeah. And how's it been received by everybody in the environment? Like, so before you had this new process, so I get that your technology gave you this leverage opportunity, right, to think a bit differently about some of this.
Yes.
But in your prior life, before your new tech, before Calabrio's in there giving you these opportunities, were your staff able to go and listen to their own calls? Did they do any self-assessment, or is this something that was kind of introduced as part of it, or is it just an evolution of how you were already operating?
It's evolved over the time, and with the advancements in the technology that we now have access to, it's yeah, that's it's
Enabled
just
it.
come along. Mm.
Love that. There's a question here from Deepak, and it's similar to your change management and your climate program. But what was the time frame that it took for you guys? I know you talked about a 2-week transition period, but I can imagine that there was a really lengthy period that was about getting it right. So you talked about
Yeah,
workshops, you talked about, try, test, review, all that sort of stuff. But as
yes,
far as going from your old form to your new form, did you just kind of say, this is the day we're doing it? We've now got this 2-week transition period and then we're live.
that's
Is that pretty
correct.
much? Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that.
that's it. Yeah, the workshops and the actual project, yes, it did give us a couple of months of just weekly meetings, coming back, touching base, getting it right. But once we had that right, and as I said, at the end, it was just basically calibrating and ensuring everything was fine-tuned. With the rollout, we were very confident with where we were at. So there was no, yeah, it was quite easy to transition over the 2-week period.
I love
And
that.
that's
We've got a
another
few. Sorry, Richard.
interesting concept that they calibrated the new form against the old form. You don't hear a lot of that happening
Yeah.
either as well. So yeah.
Was
Thanks.
there, obviously you said you then sort of worked at getting that once you had your calibration right, so it giving you the same outcomes. But
Yes.
was there anything new that, obviously you do both your technical components, so whatever your regulatory elements are, your risk points, your activity stuff, and then you've
Mhm.
got your behavior. Was that built into it prior, or was that actually only enabled because of this new stage?
As I said, we had an extensive form, so we had everything in there, but
You
we
would have
had
had
some
everything.
things
Yeah.
that wasn't relevant as well. So it was a good
Yeah.
opportunity to have a check-in and determine what are our
What
objectives
matters?
here. And yes, that's right.
Mm.
And what are we measuring? But yeah, we've been booking travel for many years, and we're very good at it. We've got tried and true procedures that needed to be moving along. So yeah, with booking travel, you have non-negotiable components of mandatory scripting. We have consistent delivery of questioning, certainly paraphrasing of directions and travel dates, of course, fare conditions, all of those areas that we needed to incorporate. Mm.
I can imagine it would not be a nice scenario to turn up, been looking forward to that boat trip, and there was an error in the booking. So I can
Yeah,
imagine the importance of that side
definitely.
of yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
all the other stuff too, Fran. Like people traveling with their pets that
yeah,
maybe don't want to put their cat in a cage with the dogs. They want to leave it in the car. So obviously you've got a contact spirit to get. I think there's some kind of form. I think Jess that you have to fill in.
That's
Um,
right.
to say that, yep, I'm happy and I take responsibility for leaving my dog or cat or ferret or rabbit or whatever I'm bringing down in the car and not in the cages. There's all that kind of the type of stuff that you don't think of when you're traveling on a plane, for example.
yeah,
It's little
yeah.
really wonderful stuff like if you take a caravan, gas bottles and have to be turned off and all those kind of things that you typically wouldn't think about
Yep.
have to be thought about in this situation. Hence, I think why they do have a bunch of mandatory questions, the scripts I've got to go through with customers to ensure all this stuff is being done correctly.
Well, it's high risk to get that stuff wrong, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jess, can you tell us what the 5 component, like the 5 parts of your assessment
Yeah.
form are?
Yeah,
Because we've got
happy
a
to
few
do
people
that.
asking about
Oh,
that.
sure. Okay. So the first criteria we have is creating a connection. And as you know, with any contact center experience, you have your customers judging you within that first 20 seconds of that interaction. So definitely we're wanting to hear the contact center consultant introducing themselves. We want them seeking and using our customer's name straight up. We want them to display some empathy, to have a strong statement of assistance. I've got you. Thank you, and that ownership that's portrayed at the beginning. We then have uncovering needs, which is, as I said, a very heavily weighted section of our criteria. This is in regards to asking all of our required questions. This is paraphrasing. This is exploring our customers' needs beyond the initial request, basically, really understanding what's important to them. We then go into again a very heavy weighted section, which you can appreciate is why I called you. Give me the answer to my question, which is offering solutions and gaining agreement. So yes, it's a very heavy loaded section. There's only 2 questions in here, but it is paramount that we have these delivered effectively, which is providing the solution accurately and in accordance with our business guidelines, and obtaining permission with the customer to proceed with that solution, or acknowledging the customer's decision. So that's a big one for us. We then have a compliance component, which again I spoke of the business routines of mandatory scripts and criteria, conditions. We have specific closing scripts that we require as well, with being a travel industry. And finally, the last section is our customer experience again. So there's flavors of it in the earlier areas, but this is just overall courtesy and call control, which we're wanting to hear name use. First call resolution, was the conversations relevant? Was the call managed efficiently? These type of things. Yeah. So does that help?
But yeah, no, that's great. And I think
Thank you.
again, the challenge is getting enough people in a room that can let go of some of those past questions. When you talk about here's a list with 100 questions, sometimes it's really
Yeah.
hard to kind of clear the space and come up with the things that really matter. So I can imagine those workshops were quite heavy as
Yeah.
far as the process for them. Did you get to a point where everyone in the room, and I don't mean necessarily we all agreed, but actually all recognized, or did you start with something and then actually have to review and adjust it as you went along? Or did you kind of land
Oh,
on something
definitely.
first? Yeah.
Yeah, look, I'm so lucky. I work in the best team. I've been here for over 10 years, and yeah, we know our stuff. So yes, we've got a small leadership team, but we're very good at what we do with years of experience. We have professional boundaries, we're respectful, we're open and
Yeah, of
transparent.
course.
So
Yeah.
with those workshops, yes, there were some qualities, a passion to us, and yes, we did hold on to some of those questions, but we certainly did effectively move through that. Throughout the project, yes, there were things that needed tweaking along the way. That's not a problem. And we certainly do set ourselves the goal of doing that annual review before the new
Yeah.
financial year, just to check in that we're satisfied with what those criterias are. But yes, no, we certainly did a lot of work in the project earlier on, but towards the end, with the calibrations and everything coming smoothly, we were in a really good place to then launch. So yeah.
Love that. And Richard, how involved or how do you operate as, kind of guiding some of that stuff to happen? Do you give advice on what you're seeing best practice wise, trend wise in other organizations? Do you sort of work with them to test and trial stuff? What's What's that support look like?
Well, these guys had to do nothing, but with other
Clearly,
customers,
they know their stuff. It's
I can
coming
learn,
through loud and
I can
clear.
learn stuff from these guys.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Because I guess being on the vendor side of the fence, we see a lot of stuff, and I find many of the customers I work with are still primarily focused on workforce management, and quality is like a secondary thing.
Yeah.
They dabble in it, and kind of I work with them trying to encourage, like, guys, you've got the system here. It's really time to kind of start. Let's look at getting a form in. Let's look at what you want to put in the form, even if it's a basic form on soft skills to start with. Like, at least get something in so you're getting some indication of what your people are doing. One of the challenges that most customers have is that they're time poor.
Yeah.
We've got to do it. We've got no one to actually sit there and do it. And they're doing 0.x% of agent calls. Is that valuable? It's better than nothing, but it doesn't give you a good overall perspective of what's happening. I mean, you might randomly select some calls from your agents, and you might get a really poor call, but the agent is generally really good. You just kind of happen to pick a bad call for that agent, or vice versa. You've picked a really good call for an agent that does need a lot of coaching and development. So at least it's a starting point. They've got to start somewhere. So I try and work with them from that perspective. Say, look, let's get something in, kind of think about what you want to measure. Let's get a form built. Let's get something in the system, at least as a starting point. We can then work with them to evolve it and enhance it from that point. But they've got to start somewhere, and that's what I'm finding is the challenge is to for a lot of customers, it's really that time poor. We've got no one to do it. Our team leaders are too busy. It's all the typical things that you're going to get around that with team leaders have 1,001 things to do already with their coaching and development and running their teams. And I was like, you want to give me another thing to do as well?
It's hard though, because
you're
right. I look at team leader roles and they are fully consumed. So to, throw another thing in there. And I think you're right. It's why we sometimes see organizations stay with what they have, because actually, it's easy. And I don't mean that, people look for easy things, but, again, they've got no time and they're already overloaded. It's hard because actually that investment will give them so much more. Like we've heard Jess talk about how it's connecting to improved outcomes, but equally how it's connecting to training and personal development. And we've got so many comments in the chat, Jess, about the self-assessment and how worthwhile that must be. So it must be hard to kind of get over that hump of this is a big investment. And it sounds like your whole leadership team, Jess, was super invested in making that investment because you could see the longer term results that would actually come out of it for you.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, what about the agents as well, Jess? Are they? I would think in that situation, obviously, being well coached and developed, they are going to be happy within themselves as well, I suspect.
Oh, exactly. It's engagement. It's and that's amazing. And let's just remember, if you're doing a self-assessment, you're your own worst critic. It's hard to hear your own voice, but let's get this right. This is your job. This is your priority, and these criteria is what we're paying you to do. So yeah, definitely. It provides some value in the role. It provides the opportunity for us to celebrate wins. It provides the opportunity for us to provide support with opportunity when it's identified. So that's all comes back down to transparency, engagement, and taking people along for the ride, which is what we're here for.
It makes a difference. It's a happy call center, small call center, but a happy call center. I've been into some call centers over the years where it's like it's like they're at a funeral. It's just miserable. It's like it's very. You go into some centers. I mean, you've been around enough, Fran, and probably many of the people on the call have as well. You go to some centers, you've got the team colors, and you've got all that kind of competitive stuff happening, and you've got happy people. You go to others, it's like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
And you know, back in my operational days, I'd worked in both of those environments, and I know which one I preferred, where I was happier. And I think that goes for everything. So, and as you said, Jess, you know, the agents are their own worst critics, right? They're going to be a lot harder on themselves than what you guys will be. But they're obviously, you know, I know, you know, your two team leaders down there, they've been there a long time as well. They're long-term Spirit of
Yes.
Tasmania people.
Mm.
So you're right, you know your stuff, you know what you're looking for. And I think for the agents, yeah, and again, I don't see many centres doing the agents having doing self-assessment. That's a really great
Mm.
initiative. And you
Yes.
don't see, you might see the odd one where they listen to their calls that have already been scored, but not too many that are doing their own scoring, which is
Yeah.
Well, I think, interestingly, as you say, we're our own worst critic when it
mhm.
comes to this sort of thing, except when someone gives you something and says you did these things wrong, wrong, wrong. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen people sit and spend a lot of time to object QA findings, a lot of time.
Mm.
So I think, you know, turning it the other way around actually means there's much more acceptance around areas that they identify for themselves as opposed to somebody throwing it to them. It's a psychological shift, and yeah, I love it. I'll be
Mm.
telling a lot of people that they should think about, have they got an opportunity to turn that on its head a bit, and also the
Perfect.
training in it first, because I think they've got to understand what it is that's being
Oh,
looked for, etc. First. So I love both parts.
that's right. So with our new recruitment, when we have a new team members join us, they go through the standard product training and workplace prac. Once that's completed and they're on the floor and operating solo without mentors, the team leaders start to embark on a learning pathway plan with the team members. And that learning pathway plan is a 1 hour session each week for a 4 week program. And the first week is going through the call flow, it's listening to a great call, and then it's doing a role play with the team leader and providing a weekly commitment and takeout as a result of that. The
Love it.
next session is that we train them in the quality assessment tool and how that reflects back to the call flow. And then we actually play the role play call that was role played the week prior, and we QA that call together with the agent. So they're learning QA at that point.
Yep.
Again, and another weekly commitment and takeout is taken to check in next week. And then the third week, we start doing assessments together. So again, a random call is selected post the previous week session, and the team leader and the consultant would then assess that call individually and then come back and check to see if their scores are aligned, which is so beautiful because you're identifying at that point, did they understand what that question is actually asking them and how they measured themselves. So then we do that for a couple of weeks, and that's that program. That's what that looks
Yeah.
like. Yeah.
Super structured, really straightforward too. Like it's not, you know, this isn't rocket science, right? It's being really clear and visible and transparent with your people, giving
Yes.
them the structure and the frame to actually succeed and be amazing. So yeah,
Yes.
hats off. I think that's a really
Thanks.
strong program. So well done on that. There was a question here
Perfect.
in relation to the self-assessments, and it was just in relation to what's governance or the oversight on that process. So I think they're sort of asking around, can they pick any calls that they look at? Is it the calls, if I was an agent, I can just select something randomly? What's the process? And on
Sure.
top of that, they would still have their normal QA being done
Oh,
formally within
definitely.
the centre. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So the normal QA is running alongside this. That's fine.
Yep.
In terms of the calls that are being accessed within that learning pathway plan, it is a random call that is selected. The consultant doesn't get to choose it because we
Yep.
want to make sure
Perfect.
the right behaviors are happening on any random call that we're
Yep.
selecting. So if we're focusing on a new booking learning pathway plan, for example, we would choose that new booking inquiry at random post the last session. We have another quality form we're using for these ones. So I explained earlier, we have a new booking quality form. We have an amendment quality form for self-assessments and for coaching activities, such as the learning pathway plan I just spoke of. We use a coaching quality form. So again, that's isolated again. So yes, no, there's no self-evaluations where consultants are inflating their scores or anything like that. Yeah, so it's a dedicated coaching template as well. Yeah, does that help?
No, that's great. And again, I think it's a really empowering process. Richard, is there a limit to how many different forms you could use? You could have any sort of,
Any
I'm
amount you
assuming
want.
it's a no. Yeah.
It's a no, but then again, yeah, less is more.
Yeah.
I mean, people can tend to
Oh,
go,
yeah. Yeah. But I mean, Jess is,
but you can go crazy, you know.
yeah, but I mean, I think what Jess has described is not about different forms for just BAU. It's actually for a really different purpose, coaching and development
Yeah.
versus your formal QA,
Yes.
versus that self-assessment kind of
Clever way to do it. And
practice.
then, of course,
Yeah.
you can report on that as well on the individual forms as well. So that kind of lets you kind of dig into what's really happening. And right down to the, not just the overall score, but the section score, the question score. You can kind of get right
Yeah.
to the weeds. And do it across any of those forms, in isolation, if you choose to do so.
Jess, there's a question here from Kelly, and it's in relation to, I think she's put here that a difficult side of QA is always that risk error management. So it's the post, conversations and actions that you put in place once you identify potentially that someone's doing the same thing over and over again incorrectly.
Okay.
How did you build improvement opportunity to your program that you may need to implement for staff who have that identified regular
Sure.
issue, or is it just part of the coaching?
Okay, so we have quarterly planning meetings. We have weekly performance meetings. So we have weekly calibration meetings. So our
Do
leadership
it
team
all.
is certainly
Yeah.
aligned. Yeah. Those weekly performance meetings, we are collectively coming together and we're supporting each other on the best coaching practices and actions to deliver over that next week to support the team leader for that united vision to grow that consultant. So that's one element. A 40% or less call, which is, this is a bit of a shocker. This is a low scoring call. We do not publish those calls live until we have a coaching session with the team member. And I think that's really important as well. Working in a contact center environment, as Richard said, you want to work in a beautiful, positive place. And we got to keep our agents' tires pumped up. And, it comes across in those customer conversations. So if there is a call that did score quite low, the team leader actually arranges a one-on-one with the consultant and has a conversation with them and provides that support with the opportunity that was identified and associated coaching commitments made before we publish it and make it live. So that's another a way of us safeguarding everyone's well-being and encouraging improvement. Yeah.
Love that. Richard, question here for you in relation to your customers. Jess has said small contact center, but mighty is what I keep hearing, Jess. But obviously you work with different size operations. So you would have small, you'd have medium, you'd have enterprise, and across industry. Like you guys work across all of it. So there's no, so again, does your clientele range in those different types across verticals?
Yeah, we've kind of pretty much across every vertical. We've got obviously entertainment and streaming services. We've got BPOs. We've got telcos. We've got health. We've got one of our big ones is Mercycare in the UK. That I think and Macmillan Cancer thing.
Yeah.
So very, very important services that kind of utilise this along with analytics as well to assist them with what they do. But yeah, we kind of pretty much go across every vertical. We've got betting agencies, internationally and everywhere else, and it's a very diverse range of customers. I mean, there's pretty much every type of industry you could think of. I mean, even to the point where I've got a few customers that are not, you wouldn't call them your traditional contact centers. Like they're selling multi-million-dollar pieces of equipment and they have a contact center. So it's not your traditional contact centers in that sense. But then, of course, we've got our traditional centers as well. And everything is really evolving now because AI is coming into the picture as well. So the whole agent persona or the training regime on agents, I think, is going to change over the next few years. It's more training them on emotional intelligence things and empathy and that kind of thing, as opposed to pure product stuff, because a lot of that pure product stuff will ultimately be dealt with by AI, and then the agents will then
or supported in real time, right? With guides and railguards.
And then the agents kind of do the more complex the complex human interaction type calls, so that emotional kind of quotient is going to have to be a lot higher, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where this stuff becomes even more important. So definitely. Jess, how many calls are listened to? How often does QA occur for your people? What's the approach you take? You said before you do random samples of calls, but actually you also have a risk approach based on which call types that you're randomly selecting based on different things. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So again, in our performance meeting for the next week, we determine as a unit what's our business priority for the coming week, what's our focus on. We try to balance it. We'll do an existing call type, whether that's a processed call or an amendment call where the customer didn't proceed to go ahead, and the same for the new booking side of things. Those drivers are identified because the consultants put a wrap code at the end of the call. So then we can be very targeted with what our allotment's going to be focused in on. We do a unbiased allotment that's delivered at the commencement of the week, usually 2 calls, one either side, and then we will do an email allotment, and then we would do, again, as I said, our upskilled allotment for those specialized roles. In regards to that, it's done weekly. Peak seasons we review what that looks like, obviously based on workload. As I said, that's a big challenge for us, what that looks like. And when it comes to so that's how we determine the allotment. When it comes to determining the allotment as well, we do have a couple of measures in place. So we wouldn't select a call that is less than 2 minutes. So we would choose one that's more than 2 minutes long, and we wouldn't go and issue the team leaders a 1 hour call. That obviously would be a coaching opportunity for a focus area. So we've got some criteria there in regards to what we're selecting. So does that help?
No, that's great. Do you find now that you are able to actually review more calls because the resource intensive nature of the assessment has changed so much?
100%, yes. Yeah, we can definitely do that. And Calabrio's got some great features. You can pump up the how fast the consultant's talking, sometimes just to move it on. You've got great transparency in regards to if that call was paused for a payment, for example. You don't have to sit there, listen to the silence. You would scoot forward. But yes, definitely with the limited of 5 sections and the limited of questions now makes it a lot easier and faster to quality assess a call. Yeah.
Reporting.
Yes.
So important, right?
Yes.
So important. What's changed for you? So your forms in the system, everything's in there. What does that reporting give you as far as the opportunity to analyze, change, identify trends, problems? What is it? Is it changed your world?
Yeah, definitely. Calabaria's got some great section reports, question reports, and we certainly do that. We just recently had a planning meeting, for example, and we identified there was a small amount of outliers in regards to quality outcomes. It was very easy just to target in on those section and question reports to identify their focus area and to then start to work on what do those SMART goals, what do those coaching plans look like moving forward to lift their performance.
again, it's a really nice embedded part of your entire operation.
Yes.
So again, it doesn't stand in isolation. It doesn't become something that's, over there of QA to do.
Yeah.
It's really nice how holistic you guys have considered performance across the board. I love it.
Yes.
There's actually a brand how they've actually, for them, quality is more important than workforce management, which is typically it's always the other way around, as you'd be aware. Most contact centers, WFM is the be all and end all. With Spirit, it's fully reversed. Again, they've got limitations on FT, they've got the fixed FT count, that kind of thing. So for them, WFM is about visibility and getting shrinkage numbers, that kind of thing. Because they can't do a whole lot. If they get double the call on a particular day, they don't have people to call in additionally to say, hey, come do the calls, because they do have a fixed head count. Sure, can other people in the business jump on the phones? Probably to help out. But like a contact center where you can offer overtime, you can pull in casuals, you can do this, they don't have that functionality to that degree. So for them, it is the fully reverse of what most contact centers are, which I find interesting in itself.
But it's interesting, right? Because when you think about that logically, this is actually what's going to give you efficiencies and build on your customer loyalty. And actually, it's what impacts the customer experience. It's totally then supported and underpinned by your WFM. But actually, great WFM without understanding quality
it's not going to help.
It's like knowing, it's like being given a book but not knowing how to read.
Yes.
You've got to kind of see them both. Yeah. Love it. Jess, just a quick question here in relation to the call volumes and things like that you guys are handling. Obviously, you've got seasonality, but what type of volumes are we talking?
We're talking around 2,500 a week in our peak season. Yeah. And that's I'm just talking inbound calls. So that's excluding our email inquiries, and everything else that we have. Yeah. So
and you obviously, multi-channel, so you've got your emails in there as well, and you apply the same quality assurance process across those as well.
Yeah, we have
obviously a little bit different, but
a little bit different, but yes, so we certainly do have an email process, quality assurance process, where we aim to do one email per week. With that, so it's pretty straightforward with the email form. It's either so it's a limited amount of questions. Our email quality is amazing. We sit around 90%.
Awesome.
For outcomes for emails. We have guidelines and criteria with email handling. So we have a lot of good structured workflows around that. We have a certain amount in queue or less before you action an email. You have we recommend our team call our emailers first before providing a response. So we do have again, that was a huge project in itself, our email integration. And we worked very closely on traditional inquiries and created some very clear predefined responses, which is strawmans for our team to grow on. So so they'll have like a greeting, an opening statement, the answer, a closing statement. Very, very structured process. So doing the work earlier on with our email project has rewarded us with the quality outcomes at the end.
Well, certainly those results are nothing to what do we say? Nothing to sneeze at. I don't know what the saying is, but you should be really proud of those because they're awesome. But equally, across the board, your QA results are exceptional. So, great results. Do you have permanent quality assessors assessing calls? Is it something that your team leaders do? Who does the assessment?
Yeah, team leaders. Team leaders do the quality assurance, yes, which is great because they know exactly where the team's strengths are, their opportunities are, their focus areas are. So that's really leveraged. They have a one-on-one with their team every week, and that's great to have those conversations with them to either celebrate wins or support opportunities.
Yeah. So feedback is given. Clearly, it's regular. often it's
Yes.
pretty damn close to real time. All of those things which make for great opportunity around that empowered
Yes.
and trusted environment where people know what's coming. They know that we're going to have a conversation that's sometimes not easy, but because it's happening all the time and it's
Yes.
really visible and those expectations are clear, the accountability and the power from that being part of the culture, it stands out and makes such a difference. So yeah,
It so does.
congratulations, Jess.
Thank you, Fran.
You guys should be really proud of all of the components that you've built in. And, I know we've said it a few times that you're a small centre. I often say you have far more flexibility and far more appetite for let's just give this a go and let's try it in a smaller centre because you have to. You have to
Yes.
actually find innovative ways to be as efficient and effective as you can be because you don't have, Richard, the things you called out before. You don't have that endless bucket of capacity sitting there just not that anyone has that waiting around these days, right? But
True.
but
But
to be honest, it's harder.
and on top of that, in a small centre, there's nowhere to hide. Like the results,
Correct.
you can't hide behind other things in the small. If you've got a set of 1,000 agents, it's really easy to hide stuff behind other things.
Yeah.
In a small size of Spirit, it's out in the open, so you can't hide anything. Like it's all on the table.
Well, definitely is, but it's only on the table. It's only on the table because the leadership are choosing to actually make it visible and on the table. So I say good job, Jess, and congrats to you and the whole leadership team on the work you've done. Obviously, there's a great partnership that you guys have built with Calabrio, and I can't wait to see what the next 12 months brings. Are there exciting plans afoot? What's next for Spirit?
Oh, look, just keep an eye on the website. Heaps are coming up. Yes. we've got lots of change happening, which is really exciting.
Love it. Thanks, guys. We are getting lots of people saying thank you, great session. And yeah, I've learnt heaps and Jess, well done. And take back our congrats to the whole team. Well done.
Sure will. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Talk
Thanks,
soon.
all.
Have a great day, everybody.
Bye-bye. Bye.